Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Harriette Voce. I'm a graduate of Aberystwyth University. I'm pleased to be with you this afternoon to discuss my research assessing the impacts of England's regulatory framework on the mine water heat industry. I'm going to start with a brief overview of the study before moving on to the key findings of the recurring barriers identified, for finishing off with some concluding remarks. Rapid decarbonisation of the UK's heating sector is central to meeting 2050 net zero targets, so it's arguably one of the most difficult major energy consuming sectors to decarbonise. As we all know, the development of the mine water heat industry in the UK presents an exciting opportunity to significantly contribute to net zero strategies and energy security, not only by aiding the decarbonisation of energy emissions from heat, but also increasing investment, economic growth and job opportunities in our fauna mining communities. This is especially true for open-loop schemes which have the potential to support large-scale development. Despite this, the growth of the industry has been quantified as slow, with limited uptake of projects. This has been attributed to various factors, although comprehensive reports detailing the aforementioned regulatory barriers are still lacking. Therefore, this research aims to provide a targeted exploration into the regulatory barriers specific to open-loop mine water heat projects in England, in order to enhance understanding and facilitate future advancement in this area. Data was collected via 13 in-depth interviews with industry professionals, ranging with a diverse range of occupational roles, each possessing relevant expertise. Participants shared insights on the efficiency of the drafted open-loop regulation framework within England as implemented by the Coal Authority and Environment Agency at the time of study. This 5-stage permitting and licensing regime remains dynamic and evolving today, and I believe there's a poster outside reviewing recent edits, as well as Joanne's presentation previously, discussing advancements that have been made to facilitate this process and make it more easily. Key barriers identified from participant feedback at the time of study include a lack of bespoke regulation, dedicated regulator, and heat licensing regime, which I'll now review, starting with those barriers associated with the regulatory framework. Interview data was indicative that the application of the repurposed hydrogeological conceptual model, currently necessitated by the Environment Agency and Coal Authority, is not suitable in the context of mine water heat. The model does not account for the inherent hydrogeological complexity and interconnected nature of mine systems. Consequently, distinguishing the hydrogeological parameters and interactions of mine systems becomes a complex process. The ineffectiveness of this model is further compounded by the absence of a clear definition of aquifers in relation to mine systems. The Environment Agency intends to manage contamination risk when abstracting and discharging water at different depths within the same mines. However, many participants would argue that a singular flooded mine would constitute as one aquifer. This dispute was referenced as a significant constraint, instigating what's considered to be an unnecessarily complicated and time-consuming permitting process. Furthermore, the repurposed abstraction licenses implemented by the Environment Agency for open-loop schemes are time-limited. The duration-based approach overlooks the complexity of mine water heat projects and the multitude of stakeholders involved. This further complicates the regulation process and risks additional costs and progression delays when licenses expire, which ultimately is a frequent occurrence. As expected, extensive timelines prevailed as the most significant concern, expressed unanimously by participants. The 26-month estimate for permitting and licensing of a scheme is not conducive nor accurate, unfortunately, with projects well exceeding this guideline, acting as a disincentive for the uptake of new projects and prompting abandonment of potential schemes. The prepaid application process and duly made processes exhibited extended wait times, as reported by participants, and present an immediate barrier to potential developers and stunt progress beyond the stage of ideation. Furthermore, the five-stage permitting and licensing process includes multiple applications and relevant assurance processes for each permit. This proves to be inefficient, complicated, and slow, and hinders enactment of a concise timeline to the detriment of new project recruitment for England. Delays in the regulatory process are reportedly exacerbated by the involvement of two organisations, which results in two separate isolated lines of communication and frequent risk of complications and disruption to the regulatory process. While the majority of participants agreed that the introduction of a single dedicated regulatory body, office, or sub-authority would be of benefit, the concept of a parallel consenting path was also highly encouraged and may be more suitable short-term solution in response to the rapid need for change in this sector. Furthermore, this multi-agency approach via the adoption of two pre-existing authorities prevents the industry from having a single expert point of contact. An opinion shared by some interviewees was that neither agency in England is currently apt to acknowledge the nuances of mine water heat projects. The time taken by consultants to educate regulators on technical nuances of projects impacts their timely progression, elongating already extensive timelines further. The Coal Authority and Environment Agency's limited expertise pertaining to open-loop systems in mine environments was reported to be attributed to shortage of resources due to the lack of central government funding. This deficit of financial resources reduces the capacity to recruit sufficiently sized teams of staff with the nuanced expertise necessary to manage the task of cultivating new bespoke regulation for this emerging industry in England. Finally, now moving on to the ownership of heat. Geothermal resources are not legally recognised as a natural resource in England. While this disrupts the formation of a dedicated regulating authority and the production of resource-specific regulations, as described previously, it also prevents the establishment of clear rules defining the ownership of mine water heat and the subsequent development of a heat licensing system. This is beyond limiting licensing of projects to one scheme per block. To conclude, the current regulatory framework surrounding mine water heat projects in England presents significant barriers to the efficient development and deployment, disincentivising investment and contributing to the abandonment of new projects. The current multi-stage framework creates an overly complicated process susceptible to delays and incurring additional costs. Repurposed permits and licenses, including duration-based extraction licenses and the hydrogeological conceptual model in their current form, are not appropriate for the application in the context of mine water environments. The involvement of multiple regulatory bodies further compounds these challenges, leading to delays and inefficiencies. Suggestions for improvement include the establishment of a dedicated regulatory body or a streamlined parallel consenting path to expedite this process. Lastly, the lack of recognition of geothermal resources as a natural resource in England poses further obstacles in defining ownership and implementing a clear licensing system for mine water heat that instills confidence in investors and facilitates the development of new schemes. Addressing these regulatory hurdles is crucial to unlocking the full potential of mine water heat in England and contributing to 2050 net zero strategies, including decarbonisation efforts, energy security, and economic growth. Thank you for your attention. I'd look forward to answering any questions you may have.